may have seen the webinar that I did leading up to this. There's going to be a little bit of crossover, but we're actually going a lot more in depth. So if you see some things that are familiar, don't tune out. We're still going to go through a lot of good stuff. So this week, for week 1 of camp, yay, everybody give yourselves a round of applause for joining me and diving into really take your businesses to a new level. One of the things that I think is so important in understanding digital marketing is even if you are going to source this out to an employee or to a consultant, somebody else, it's still vital because it's your business that you understand the backbone of how some of these things work so you can make a smart decision when it comes to hiring somebody and monitor what they're doing to see if they really know what they're doing and just even to guide them along the way. But this week, we're going to really dive into how you can harness the power of AI for your own needs. Some people have some trepidation about AI these days, which is not unfounded. But the fact of the matter is, like with so many things in technology, if you're not jumping on it now, your competitors are going to. And so it's great that you're here and ready to get that leading edge above others. And I promise you, this is going to save you so much time once you sort of get into the swing of using AI to your advantage. So, like I said, welcome. We are going to even take your digital marketing superpowers to the next level over these next 3 weeks. Today, we're going to explore AI and really how it keys into integrated digital marketing, which those of you who have worked with me before, and all 3 of you have worked with me in some capacity, know I am always preaching, do not put your eggs in one digital media basket. We need an integrated approach, and we're going to talk about that. And as far as questions, jot them down. If there's something really pressing, we're a small group, so you can jump in while I'm going, but I typically like to leave the questions for the end. You can drop them in the chat, but I'll ask that people aren't going into the chat to answer them while we're mid masterclass, just because that can kind of take you away from what we're focused on. But do feel free to drop them in the chat so you don't forget them. And I'm going to go through them at the end. We will unmute ourselves. We can discuss. Because we are a nice, small, active group, which I'm really excited about. So today we're going to talk about that integrated digital marketing approach, why it's so important and what the heck is it? You should know, but if you don't, we're going to define it. We're going to decipher these algorithms that are used by search engines and social media so you can get that competitive edge and start to grow your brand and grow your brand awareness. We're going to talk about leveraging some of these AI tools so that you have a really kick-ass digital marketing assistant. And what I love about this AI digital marketing assistant, and I have 3 of them that I use, 2 that I use more than the others, is they don't ask for breaks. They don't take vacations. They don't complain about their day. They're really great to use and best part is if they give you something and it's not quite what you were looking for, you can just tell them. You don't have to be nice about it. You can just say, this isn't what I was looking for, or I need you to fix this. They take critique really well. And I want you to we're also going to go through the importance of setting clear, achievable marketing goals. I did say in the welcome that I want you to have a SMART goal for the next 3 weeks. It's okay if you don't have it right at this moment, but I'd like for you to have it maybe by Wednesday. Something in mind, because you are going to get far more out of what we're doing for the next 3 weeks if you have a goal in the back of your mind that you can be applying these things that you're learning to. And then, of course, we'll do the live Q&A. You all know me, so I'm not going to go through this really quick, but suffice it to say that I have 25 years experience working in the online world. And one of the things that I want to note is if you look at who's here, and Carrie and Joni aren't on live right now, which is totally A-okay, but when I start talking about who is your ideal client, I want you to look around at each other. We are all Gen X women. That is my ideal client. You're not here by mistake. You're here by design, because I focus my messaging and my teaching on women of our age, our generation. And I want you to keep that in mind because it's so important. It doesn't mean that if I had a millennial on or a guy that I wouldn't want them there, but it just makes your marketing so much better when you are speaking to this ideal client in the back of your head. Beth and I really harp on this a lot in our one-on-one coaching sessions. If you're speaking to that one person that lights you up and that you could work with all day, every day, then it just makes your marketing messaging and it helps you define your brand so much. And by looking at who's in summer camp this year, you can see that I've really designed my messaging to attract you all, not in a sneaky way, but because really I want to work with you all. And how awesome is that I actually have the people I want to work with here in camp. Okay, so let's talk about this IDM strategy. I'm not going to go too in depth with it because I have talked with some of you about it, but I do want to emphasize how important it is. It really is the Avenger superhero team when you're thinking about digital marketing. And you all know me, so you know I love my Avengers and my Marvel comics. Really integrated digital marketing, and the website that all my classes live on and that I am in development, there'll be a lot more content on there soon, is IDM Strategy Lab. And again, that's by design. Because if you're just focusing on social media, if you're only focusing on Instagram or only focusing on LinkedIn or only focusing on YouTube, or maybe you're only focusing on your website, you're not bringing them all together and helping them work together in a cohesive way so that you have this super powered campaign. I talked about this in the webinar. It's so important to remember that if you haven't heard this before in the marketing world, it takes 7 points of contact, 7 times seeing your brand in different places for someone's brain to really engage with who you are and then maybe move from being slightly interested into being somebody really interested in buying your service or your product. So by using an integrated digital marketing approach, you're not only covering those 7 touch point bases, but you're also getting into people's different learning styles. Beth, I know you're a former teacher, so you're probably familiar with different learning styles. Some people learn by listening. That's why podcasts are so really popular these days. Some people learn through color and organizing that way. They're very visual. I am a very visual learner. That's why you see me with a ton of color everywhere all the time, because it's very helpful in my style of learning. But there are different ways that people learn. Video is very popular because it's another visual outlet. People have different learning styles. So if you're focusing in on website, digital media, and then you're using different methods to get your message across, you're actually going to hit those 7 touch points and also the different ways that people tend to learn and absorb information. So that's why these are such power. It's such a powerful Avenger superhero team when you're allowing all of these to work together. And most importantly, the one that I did not mention is list building your email lists, because at the end of the day, all of your social media is borrowed space. It can shut down. They change the algorithms all the time. They change the playing field all the time. Right now on Instagram, it is hard to get into that discovery feed sometimes. So it's really important to remember that, your website and your email list are yours. They are your property. And so you want to be very mindful of those things because they're very powerful, very valuable tools in your toolkit. And you want to make sure that you always have the keys to that part of your business. It is so important that you have the usernames and passwords for your website, that you know where your domain is registered, you know how to log into your email and access your email list. It is just as important as having the physical keys to the door of your store and having the security code to get into that store. Too many business owners sort of let somebody else handle that and then find themselves sometimes in some really sticky situations. I can't even count on 2 hands how many business owners I have helped get out of that, trying to figure out where things are registered, who has the login, who is authorized. So you want to be really mindful of those two things, your website and your email marketing. You want to make sure that at all times you have the keys and the codes to get into those things. Even if you're not the one that's running them all the time, that's okay. But these are your business and they are just as important as being able to access your physical store. Okay. So the power of integration, I kind of just talked about that, the way that these all work together. They should be working like a funnel in some ways. That is sort of the analogy that we, used to always talk about, that sales funnel starting up here. But really nowadays, they're more integrated. It's not so much a funnel, although you still might think in terms of a sales funnel as like social media is. I like to use the dating analogy. You may have heard this before, but it's a really good analogy, which is why it's used so much. So think of using dating apps. When you go onto the dating app, you fill out your profile and you're kind of just casting out a wide net and you're looking at who's out there, but they're also looking at you to see if there might be some interest and whether you swipe left or right. So social media initially, when it comes to like reels and posts, that's sort of that dating app kind of thing. Are we interested in each other? Do you have what I need? I might want to start following you, aka going out on a first date with you. If I'm interested and I think you've got something that I'm interested in. So that's when you take it to the next step, is that first date where then we can have a more in-depth conversation. I might follow you a little bit more on social media. And then I might hit, like or follow you. And then after a little bit of time, we might hit that second date, which is where I might actually give you my email address so that you can get in my inbox. And why that is so important is because of the statistics that are out there. 2 to 3%, if you are very lucky on any social media channel, are even going to see anything that you post. And that's if you're doing all the things we're going to talk about next week, being consistent, posting well. And if you look at your numbers, if you're consistent, if you're posting good content, if you look at your numbers, you will see that. When I look at my St. Croix, where I have over 5,000 followers, it's about 2 to 3% of them that are interacting, that are clicking like, that vanity metric of like, because they're just sort of there. And so it can take a while to build that up. But in your email list, when I've gotten your email and I send out an email, that percentage goes up to anywhere between 40 and 50% opens, because these are people who've said they're really interested in what you've got. They want to hear more from you. And they may not take the action that you put in every email, but at least they're opening it. You're getting that message out there. So the stat on email marketing is that the ROI is for every return on investment. For every dollar that you spend on email marketing, you get a $47 return. That is huge. If you're using that tool right, you're using these tools consistently, it's so much bigger than social media. So social media gets the foot in the door, gets people to understand who you are, maybe what you might be about, but it's getting that email address from them so that then you can stay in touch with them. Because think about it too, on social media, you might find a great reel that's really interesting and you didn't follow their page. And then, a day later, you don't even remember seeing that reel, let alone think, oh, I love that reel. Who was that by? Who is that from? Unless it happens to pop up in your feed again, they're just gone. So you want to give people a reason to come back for more and then give you that email address. We will be talking about that more over the course of the next week, but I really can't stress enough, list building is so, so important. Okay, so let's dive into the algorithms of trying to tap into that 2 to 3% that are going to see you. We definitely always think of these algorithms, the dreaded algorithms, they are the villains in our superhero world. But at the end of the day, really, they're not. Sometimes we fall in love with those villains, and they actually really are there to serve you as the customer who's coming to the platform. So there's two main algorithms, or not two algorithms, but two kinds of algorithms that we're going to talk about. There's the SEO algorithms. Those are the algorithms on Google. on YouTube, actually, and even now in Instagram, the SEO, search engine optimization, using keywords to find relevant content. I want you to think about why Google, since I think 98 is when Google came to be, and rivaled Yahoo, and Yahoo's like nowhere nowadays. Not many people use Yahoo search. Some people do, don't get me wrong, but even Bing, Microsoft is this huge company. It's Google who is the Mac daddy, right? And the reason why is because of these algorithms. Because when I go to Google and I type in a few keywords, I'm confident that Google is going to serve back to me content that I'm looking for. If I wasn't finding what I was looking for in those keywords, I'd move on to somebody else. I'd be using Bing more often, but Google gives me really what I want. And so by using that SEO, by using in your blogs on your website, using the right key terms, using the right tools, you are actually helping Google know more about you. I mean, think of these algorithms kind of like newborn babies. And when we get into AI prompt engineering, it's the same sort of thing. They don't know anything about you. You have to tell them everything about you because they don't know anything. Or maybe instead of a newborn baby, think of them as a brand new assistant who's never worked with you before. You have to teach them. You have to tell them about your business. And when you tell them, give them that information that they need in the right way, then you're going to rise up in those algorithms. Now, these aren't static either because your competitors are doing the same thing. Whether if you have a vacation home and you're going against Airbnb or VRBO, they are the big guys. They have a lot of money behind them and people working on things. You have to do a little more footwork to get up there in the organic listings, but it's not impossible. So it's not something that you're going to do once and walk away from. This is something that at least quarterly, all of you who've worked with me before know that I talk about, doing quarterly business audits. So you want to, at minimum quarterly, if not more often, go in and sort of recheck your keywords and whatnot on your website and across your social media. But the good thing is that when your social media accounts are linked to your website, Google actually recognizes that. So if you're talking about the same thing on your social media accounts that you have on your website, if you're talking about the same subject matter, it is going to recognize that, and that is going to feed you even further into those algorithms because they're computers and they just know everything. So they can figure that out. So you want to get clear on your messaging, and we're going to get into that. They control what the outcome is, but you can feed them and you can help them so that they're feeding you in that outcome. Your secret weapon with all of this is quality content and strategic posting and positioning. So you want to get very clear on your messaging and what it is you do so that you can teach these algorithms and these AI models what you're all about. So with SEO algorithms, there are tools that we can build in, like Yoast has this great free tool that I know some of you are familiar with, that helps you define SEO. Beth and I have worked a lot on this together, and she's gotten really good at working with Yoast. So you want to be able to define your keywords that are relevant to you, your unique business, because your business is different than your competitor's business. There's something unique about you and what you do. So you want to get into those keywords and define them. And I have a little exercise for you later. Backlinks. Backlinks are other websites that link to your website. You want to make sure that these are quality websites. And one of the great things that you can do is have Google help you with that. We're going to talk a little bit about Google Business Tools. Google is a very quality website. What can I think of? I was going to say Yoast again, but it's not Yoast, but Yelp, TripAdvisor. These are quality websites that, as long as you put your backlinks into them, My St. Croix in a business directory, all of these things are quality websites that the algorithms already recognize and link back to you. So you want to encourage, whenever you can, working with synergistic businesses that might feedback, and also have your business listed in relevant places, especially on some of these bigger search engine style websites. that are free. You want to, again, make sure your content is relevant to what you are doing. If you are a scuba diving business, then don't be talking necessarily so much about skiing in Colorado. You might not want to have a blog post about that because that's not relevant. That's not going to be, you might do something in your story on social media if you go on a ski trip, but for your content on your website, for real juicy content on your social media, you want to keep it all relevant. You want to define a list of 10 to 15 keywords or key phrases that are unique to you. And we're going to have an exercise of how to do that. And if you're completely unsure and you don't know sort of what are people searching for in your business, there's a really great site. It's called answerthepublic.com. So you can go to that site. This is free. They have free versions of it. And you can type in sort of what you feel your genre, your keywords are. And it's going to give you this dial of questions that people are asking that are relevant to your business. And you can then kind of key into those and use that as inspiration for some social media posts, maybe a blog post, maybe updating some of the content on your website. So use that, because at the end of the day, I say this all the time, your digital marketing isn't about you. It's not about you and what you're doing. It's about what your customer needs and what they want to see. So we want to get in their head. What are they looking for? And how can we feed that to them? It's going to help with these algorithms. Google Business Tools, if you haven't got them set up, they are very good. There are some sort of some nuances to it. If you don't have a physical store, you're not really supposed to have the Google Play set up. They might be changing that a little bit. I kind of got around that a little bit. But at minimum, there are a ton of these free Google tools that you can be using. You can build them into the back end of your website. I've done all your websites, so we have it in there. But these are really great because it actually, the more you use the Google business tools, the more you're telling Google, again, what you're about. So it's really important in that case to be clear about who you are, what you're doing. Next week, we're going to get into what your content pillars are so that we're feeding these algorithms specifically what you need to tell them about you. The social media algorithms work different, but they're starting to work a little bit more like the algorithms on Google, the SEO, Google, Bing, Yahoo, sorry. So the most important thing to remember about these social media algorithms is that they're looking at engagement. Too often people are concerned about how many likes they got on a post. I want you to literally take that right out of your head. I don't want you, at least for the next 3 weeks, I don't even want you to look at how many likes are on a post. I don't want you to care about them. That is not what's important to the algorithm. They consider those, we call those vanity metrics, how many follows you have and how many likes you have on a particular post or a reel. They're called vanity metrics. They make us feel good very quickly because, sure, I want to see people like me. Please like me. But they're not what's really important. What's important is engagement, because it really takes 2 seconds for me to double tap and like a post on Instagram or like a post on Facebook. But if I hang out a little bit longer and I watch your reel, or you put up a carousel and I'm swiping through it, it takes me a little more time. If I'm actually going into your comments and typing a comment and then the person who owns that page is coming back and answering it, or if I'm typing in a word and you're going to DM me, these are all engagement. Why are they so important? Because, folks, social media is not free, and the way they make their money is through advertising. And so their goal, their business goal, Meta in particular, which is the big one, Instagram and Facebook, but even LinkedIn, their goal is to keep you on their platform longer so they can show you more ads. The more ads they show you, the more money they make. So it's really important for engagement. And not only that, but when somebody's engaged, it's triggering, it's firing those neurons to learn more about you. And so they're going to come back and your brand's going to be more recognizable to them. Recency is how often you're on the platform. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be on there all day, every day. But you do want to start to get into a rhythm on whatever social media platform you're working on at the time. I really want to emphasize not to get overwhelmed. Focus on one social media platform, especially for the next 3 weeks. Which one do you maybe want to grow a little bit on? You could focus on that one and spend maybe a little more time. Honestly, if you're spending 15 minutes to half an hour just taking some time to engage with your followers, to check to see if there are comments, or even more importantly, going over to a bigger competitor, somebody that you might want to emulate, you want your content to look like theirs for your business, you maybe want to start going over there and engaging on their content, making some comments under their profiles. So for example, 2 of you are in the dive business that are on here. So maybe you might want to go on to Patty's Instagram or Dive Magazine and engage on some of those posts. If they have some carousels, go through their carousels. They're going to give you some good ideas. See what they're doing that's working. Look at what, like if you look at their Reels feed, which Reels that they made are the ones that are getting the highest engagement rate. Those views, that's engagement rate. See what's working for them, but also get in their comments, not to hijack them and promote your business. Do not do that. We want to be ethical. But I always come back to it's called social media. Social media. Get social. Do not only post sales and do not only post about your business. This isn't look at me, look at me. This is actually engaging. So go on to these bigger content or these bigger accounts and engage a little bit, get some ideas, get some inspiration, but also comment in there, because what's going to happen is other people commenting there are going to like that comment if you have something really valuable to say about what that was about. And then when they like that, they might come over to your page. So you're kind of inadvertently leading them in your direction, and that's telling the algorithm that you have similar content. So you're not going to steal anything. You're not going to try to hijack them, but you are going to go in there. And if you're engaging on these other accounts that are similar to yours, you're going to start seeing them in your own discovery feed. And you're going to start to tell the algorithm that this is what you're about. Does this mean that you can't watch fun cat videos because it has nothing to do with your business? Absolutely not. I watch them. But they're not going to help you as much. So I do sometimes recommend people watch those kind of things, maybe have a separate personal account where you're just kind of chilling and scrolling and having fun with it. But it's not going to affect you. It's not going to be a tick against you. But the more you engage with these accounts that are similar to yours, Beth, in your case, you might want to find Airbnbs. But also you want to be engaging with businesses. You're all St. Croix centric, so I can say this. Also be engaging on other businesses that might be adjacent to yours. You know, Beth has a vacation home, so diving is adjacent to hers. You are divers. Places to stay are adjacent to yours. Other excursions, restaurants, also be connecting to them, because the algorithm is going to recognize you're all in the same location. And when people start to look for things, the other thing that's really important is we can back off on hashtags because they are not important to the algorithm. Hashtags nowadays will do nothing for you for the algorithm. They're not going to get you found. They do not feed the algorithm at all. This is directly from Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram. They no longer feed the algorithm. What they do is they will help categorize your business. So if somebody clicks on a hashtag, you will potentially come up in that feed, and there is value to that. So Adam himself has said the sweet spot is about 3 to 5 hashtags. Put them at the bottom of your post content. And you want to have them be broad. You don't use the same ones every single time, and you don't even need to use them every time. But you might want to have a mix of hashtag dive St. Croix or scuba diving St. Croix or something like that, or vacation home rentals. And then have a couple that are location based, hashtag St. Croix, hashtag St. Croix USVI. And then maybe have your own unique hashtag. Hashtag symbiosis diving, hashtag King Bay Dive Shop, hashtag Casa de Vista STX. You can have your own unique hashtag as well. So you want to sort of use those as categorizing. And, especially if you have a unique hashtag that you're using geared to your business, then hopefully other people might use those a little bit too, come up in that feed, and it helps to propel you forward. What's important now to the algorithms on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram and in LinkedIn, is not hashtags, it is SEO. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to that caption. You have 2,000 characters, 2,200 characters in your caption. You don't need to use them all. You don't need to fill it up with 2,000 caption or characters, but we're going to dive into that a little bit more next week. But the more you can have in that caption, it's going to do two things. It's going to make sure you have some of those keywords, so you're talking about what you're about in there. It's going to feed the algorithm. But the other thing is that as people are scrolling, if you have a good hook at the top that gets them to start reading, it's going to keep them there. So you're going to get that stickability. You're going to stop the scroll. They're going to spend more time engaging with your content. And that's going to tell the algorithm that you're worthy of being boosted up a little bit more. When you post something, especially to Instagram nowadays, what they do is they sort of take a small sampling of your followers, that 1% maybe, and they feed first your post or your reel to that small group. If during that first hour there is engagement from that group, then they will boost it up to a higher amount, and they might even push it out into this discovery to non-followers. So it's really important that you're working towards this engagement. Single picture posts, they're out. You want to use them very little. Single post, single image, the things that get more engagement. And I want you, if you are focusing on social media at all over these 3 weeks, you are going to focus on reels, and you're going to focus on carousel posts. Carousel posts are really great because even in that image, if you have text, and I want you to spend some time after this, just, going through those accounts and noticing how these bigger accounts are now using them. So you can take all that information that's in your caption and you can put it into these carousel posts. You can put the words on there so that people can see them. You want it big. You don't want tons of small print that people can't read on their phone, but you want to have it in there for two reasons. It's going to take people a couple seconds to read through and then go to the next carousel. And then also because it keeps them on there longer. So you can get that same information from your caption and put it up in your carousel. Throw in some pictures. Maybe you put some text over your pictures. Again, we're going to talk about content next week, but I want you to be thinking along the lines of these terms, that it's really important to stick to that engagement, stick to those carousels. It's really going to help you. And the other thing that I want to talk about real quick, so we go on to the other one, is there are such thing as banned hashtags. You may or may not have heard this term, shadow banning. It's a very controversial term. Those of us who are in digital marketing will tell you it exists. The CEOs, Mark Zuckerberg and Adam Mosseri, they will all tell you it doesn't exist. Technically, it does not exist. But what is it? So it is when you are using banned hashtags, and there are banned hashtags, and some of them will surprise you. For example, recently, as of May, 2 banned hashtags were hashtag woman, hashtag women, hashtag saltwater, banned hashtags. And if you use too many of them too often, the platform will actually start to throttle you. They will stop showing your content. Why are these banned? Because jerks out there who are spamming will glom onto some of these weird hashtags. There is not a real official list that Instagram puts out about these banned hashtags. You won't necessarily know that you've been banned. So it's like a real sticky situation. But as long as you're acting properly and you're not trying to do spammy things, you shouldn't get any of these knocks against you. There are some tools out there that you can use. One of them that I like is this spikers.com. So you can actually go to spikers.com and it's slash banned hashtags. I have a list. If you go into this week's module and you go to the materials tab, I did give you a PDF in there. I dropped it in a little bit later. It has a list of, as of May, the banned hashtags, but it also has the link to this Spikers where you can put in your handle. So I put in my St. Croix and it will actually scan your Instagram account to see if you have any banned hashtags in there. I recommend doing that because we were all using them for years and years and years, and you just never know. So it's a good thing to go through. If you find out you have a banned hashtag, you can go back and find that post. You can edit those captions. You can take it out. So I don't want you to spend 5 hours doing that, but use this tool just to double check. And keep in mind going forward, if you all of a sudden have some great engagement, you're rolling along, everything's smooth, you're seeing big engagement, and all of a sudden that really drops, that's when we start to worry. So this is really important information to know if you're working in social media going forward. SEO is what it is about. And they also, on those carousels, I knew there was something else I was going to mention, that text that you put on those images, the algorithms read that. They can read images, they read the text on images. So it feeds that SEO as well. So get those keywords in there. Be careful not to keyword stuff. You want to make sure that you're talking about relevant information. You want to be giving value. You don't want to just be throwing keywords out there for the sake of throwing them out there. So all that to say, now we want to enter the AI sidekick. This is where AI can really save you time because all of what I just talked about, I'm sure has your minds going, and it's all overwhelming. So we're going to use these AI sidekicks, these AI assistants to help you with it. AI, like most people nowadays, are thinking in terms of ChatGPT. We're going to talk a little bit about some other options. But it's not just about coming up with some great prompts for social media posts or even for blog posts. But they can actually help data analysis. They can do competitive analysis with your competitor. They can look at your site and look at your competitor's site. I do that all the time. So you can spy on them. What are they doing good? What are you doing good? How can you do that better? So this is a really great way to start to get you inspired to get more information. They can also help you with keyword analysis and content creation. I want you to be careful with the content creation for two reasons. One, because AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, the three we're going to talk about, they are known to hallucinate. That's the term that we use when they kind of just make shit up. And I've caught them before doing that. I believe it was ChatGPT. I was trying to find and go back through some old posts from last year to screenshot what it said to me. But I actually was doing a competitive analysis for one of my websites, and it came up. I was asking it for some stats, and it came up with this one stat. And I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. I didn't know I was doing so well. So I said, where did you get that stat from? And it came back and said, oh, you're right. I shouldn't make things up. I'll be careful not to do that in the future. They will make up stats. They will make up facts. So you want to be careful. I do use AI to kind of give me some ideas, some first draft ideas when I'm doing blog posts for St. Croix, for content to do with St. Croix. And I have read through some of it and been like, that's not exactly correct, because we all know, being involved with St. Croix, that there's some stuff out there on the web that's written by people that came here once and think they know everything, and it's not quite right. And AI is scraping that. So you want to be careful with any of that kind of stuff, but it still is a great tool to get you into blogging, to get you into some deeper, more juicy content creation. Just be careful. And then also make sure that you're not just copying and pasting what it gives you. This is using an assistant. This is using a digital assistant. You wouldn't have your new assistant who's worked for you 2 weeks start totally creating all of your content without reviewing it. So I want you to make sure that you're putting your own voice into things. And as we learn more about prompt engineering, AI will get better at writing in your voice, but you still want to make sure that it's you, that you are the one that's engineering everything. You are the one that's molding it. So I mentioned the three big players are ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. I these are my three assistants. I refer to them as Charlie, Claudia, and Georgia. And so there are three different of these tools that you can use for prompt engineering, but they're very different in some ways, similar in others. ChatGPT is created by OpenAI, that's Elon Musk world. And ChatGPT is the one most of us know about, right? And so it's very conversational. You can actually chat with it like you would chat with an assistant. I like to say Charlie is like my hip millennial assistant, and she's really good at what she does, but she's not always 100% honest. Sometimes she exaggerates things a little bit. So I have to keep an eye on her. But it is really good for content creation. The two that I use the most are ChatGPT and Claude. Claude was created by this company called Anthropic, and they really have a focus on making sure that AI is used ethically. So they are more factual. They are the ones, if you're writing a more science-based article, Christine, if you were writing something for Symbiosis about fish, you might want to use Claude for that. Sometimes I will, though, kind of go back and forth and use some prompts on both of them and then pull out the things that I like. But I really like Claude for things that are a little more factual based. And if you're going to get into coding at all, if you want to know how to create the HTML code for the back end of something, Claude is actually really well known for coding. You can just say, what is the HTML code to make this sentence bold? And it will give you the HTML code that you could then drop in. You may not be getting into that, but it is good for that. Gemini is actually created by Google. And so ChatGPT and Claude, when you ask it to look at your websites, Claude will tell you usually that it can't really do that. ChatGPT will go ahead and tell you it can, and it will go through things, but, and I'm using the free version of all of these. It's not live. So it's content that's probably several months, 6 months old. So if you've just put up a new blog post, it's not in there yet. It uploads information from the interwebs all over, and then it will refer to that in its database. Gemini, though, is powered by Google, and it actually is using live data. What I have found using Gemini and experimenting with it a bit more is it's not as comprehensive. So I use it a little more sometimes for some analysis of things, but I still find that ChatGPT and Claude are giving me more information than Gemini. But I recommend playing around with them, and it's a good, try a prompt and then put it in all three and sort of see what the difference is. You will get an affinity for one over the other. But for me personally, I'm using ChatGPT and Claude a lot. When I talk about prompt engineering, this is prompt engineering. It's you actually, again, need to treat this like an assistant that knows nothing about you, and you need to actually prompt it. So I asked ChatGPT to give me some prompt engineering, and I was forgetting that I have been using that ChatGPT specifically for articles and information and competitive analysis for my St. Croix. So it gave me all these prompts that were based on St. Croix, which is nice. So if you have multiple businesses, which I don't think you all are going to be working on that, but I do because I have a lot of clients I work for. I've actually I've started to create separate accounts using different emails, so that I'm only talking about one business, because it will, over time, over different threads, it will start to learn what you're about because of SEO and the things you're asking it. And I do keep threads going quite long. So if I'm on a topic, I will keep going on that thread. You're not going to, on a thread, give it one prompt and then get an answer and then move on to another one. This is a thread. You have back and forth conversations with them, and I'll show you momentarily. So these are just sort of some engineerings. I did drop also in your materials. There is a prompt engineering Mad Libs that I dropped in. Go through that. It's not based on St. Croix, but we're going to do one. I wanted to show you this real quick that I did. So the prompt that I put in was, what are the top 25 SEO keywords and keyword phrases that people are using when searching for information about the island of St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands? So I thought this would be relevant to all of you, which is why I want to put this in here. So I did this in Gemini, and Gemini weirdly didn't give me a good list, even though it's Google. I did this in Chat GPT, which actually gave me these. And these I know to be relevant. So these are good. So you can ask this. I asked this on a thread that I've been using for different things. But I want you to see that this is more than just like create a blog post for me, whatever. There are so many things that you can do. And this prompt engineering is going to help you define what your keywords are. And I have some homework that's going to help you even key into yours. So now what we're going to do is we are going to write a social media post, and we're going to do this as a Mad Libs together. So you can either drop it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and pop in and say something out loud. But we are going to first go through this just like Mad Libs when we were kids, which was like mine and my cousin's favorite thing in the whole world. We used to do it with our aunt, and she would let us use dirty words and stuff. So we're not going to do that this time. So we're going to do this, and we're going to put it in. I want you to see how this works. I don't want you to be serious about your businesses right now. I actually want you to be a little silly, and I want this to be completely different. And I want you to do it like Mad Libs. I don't want you to be thinking about something building on the others. The wackier we can do this, the cooler it will be. So somebody drop in the chat or unmute yourself. What social media platform should we be creating a post for? First one that I get in the chat or I get on here, I'm going to use
Facebook.
Facebook. All right. So we're going to do one for Facebook. Okay. And we're going to promote an event or a product. It could be anything. And I'll give you a little hint if you didn't watch or you didn't see, I posted about this on my Instagram because it came out so good. We promoted gummy bears in the first webinar that I did, which was so weird. They went like really on a crazy tangent. I didn't know that it would work, and it worked out so good, which is why I want you to be think outside the box. So what event or product do we want to promote? What comes to your mind? The craziest thing that comes to your mind, the first thing you can think of.
Drinking rum.
I love it. Okay, drinking rum. All right, and what tone of voice should we use? Like enthusiastic, professional, angry, silly.
I was going to say drunk.
I like it.
No, don't.
I told you I want this to be out to lunch. Like, for example, with the gummy bears, they used an angry tone of voice and it really worked.
Okay.
I think we should use, well, let's use, how about let's use sarcastic? Kind of in between drunk and mad. So let's use a sarcastic tone of voice. We're going to include a hashtag. So what should our hashtag be? We're talking about drinking rum on Facebook, and we're going to use a hashtag. Hashtag.
Let's see if it's been banned.
No, we don't want to use banned one. It doesn't matter about that though.
St. Croix.
Hashtag St. Croix. We can do that. Yep. Why not? And so this post should highlight the main feature of our drinking rum event. What's the main feature of it? Like what do we want people to know about this? What is what's really cool or what's cautionary or whatever about drinking rum?
Trying all the flavors.
Trying all the flavors. So I'll say a lot of a variety of flavors.
No.
And what is going to be our call to action? Do we want them to buy it? Do we want them to drink more? Do we want them to drive responsibly? Like what is our call to action? Anyone? Bueller? How about, I'm trying to, if I have this prompt written down somewhere, so I'm typing it. Yeah, there it is. How about call to action is going to be enter our contest to win a free bottle.
Perfect.
Okay. Enter to win a free. Okay. So now I am going to unshare this for a moment. Whoops. I'm going to actually go over and I am going to my where is, oh, no, that's my screen. I want to go to, well, let me just unshare and make sure I have stopped sharing. I'm going to go over to my web browser. I don't know why that wasn't coming up. Okay. And I'm going to go to Claude. I'm going to use Claude for this because most people are familiar with ChatGPT. So I just want you to see the difference using Claude. And bear with me a second to make sure I'm in my, yeah, okay. So I created a separate Claude that wasn't one that I've been using for work stuff. So it probably thinks that I have serious ADD. All right, so here we go. So this is a little prompt engineering. So I'm going to do write a social media post for Facebook promoting drinking rum. Use a sarcastic tone of voice and include the hashtag, oops, St. Croix. The post should highlight a variety of flavors and encourage followers to enter our contest to win a bottle of rum. Okay, boom. So here we go. So feeling boring and responsible, time to spice up your life with some liquid excitement. Our rum collection is so diverse, it puts your personality to shame. From vanilla smooth to burn your taste buds spicy, we've got a flavor for every mood swing. Think you can handle it? Prove it. Enter our contest for a chance to win a bottle of our finest rum, because nothing says I've got my life together like free alcohol, right? Don't forget to use hashtag St. Croix when you share your best, definitely not drunk selfie. Bottoms up, folks. Disclaimer, we're legally obligated to remind you to drink responsible, whatever that means. I mean, come on. That's really good, right? It's really creative. It's really fun. And it took us far longer to come up with what we were going to do than it did to come up with this. So I just wanted to, I think this is really fun to show you that it actually can be funny and creative. And I have found it to be maybe funnier than I am on most occasions. So I want you to, as you're moving forward with some of the things you're doing, I want you to not feel constrained to be so serious about your own businesses. Have a little fun with it, because humor really sells as well. Psychologically, humor sells. So I think this is really good. We're not going to share this with Crucian Rum because it's really good. Too bad for them. But Beth, you might think about it because you actually have that awesome tasting bar in your villa. So you might want to come back to this. All right, we're going to go back to the slideshow. Hang on. Is it not on the page that I was on? Oh, yes, it is. Okay, I want to make sure I'm going back to the page we were on. Okay, so that's just a quick way to use that. I'm going to go through these because I know we're getting short on time. There's just so much great stuff that I can teach you about AI. But I want to just mention to you, especially where people are thinking nowadays more in lines of Chat GPT for AI. You've been using AI for a long time already. And there's so many of these, what we call SaaS, software as a service programs, that already have AI built into them and have for a while. When you go onto your Netflix account, yours, when you pull up that first screen, I'm sure looks very different to mine. I'm super into international shows. So it's feeding me more stuff that I like, or things that I've watched, what I've engaged with, because it wants me to binge. It wants me to stay there. And there's billions and billions of titles on Netflix. So by feeding me what I want to see, it keeps me there. It keeps me coming back. Same with Spotify. Spotify uses AI for personalized playlists. I use Apple Music. I love it because I can create a playlist and have it playing while I'm working along. And when it gets to the end of the playlist, instead of stopping like it used to, it keeps going by feeding in similar music to me. And so I've actually discovered new songs. So if I have a playlist that's, 80s rock, it will feed in more 80s rock to me. It knows what I like based on what I've put on that playlist, but also what my habits are, what I've liked, what I've followed, what I play. So, and Amazon, there's billions and billions and billions of products on Amazon. If we had to sift through every single product to find what we wanted, we wouldn't be using Amazon. It uses AI. When you log into Amazon to buy a bag of chips or to buy some toilet paper, it gives you all kinds of other stuff. And you're like, how does it know that? Well, because it's using AI to give you things it thinks you're going to buy. And that's going to keep you there. And it does two things. Sure, it gets you to buy more maybe, but it also saves you time by having to sort through tons of stuff that you might not be interested in. So AI helps that way. Some of the SaaS tools that I use, software as a service tools, we're going to get into Canva more next week. I think some of you also have been working with Canva, but I'm going to show you some really cool features. So I'm not going to go through it too much today. But there is some really cool AI features in Canva. I'm going to show you, I'm going to go through it rather quickly, but Constant Contact, you all, I think, know that I'm a Constant Contact partner. I've been with them for more than 15 years. I have a special badge because of it. So I'm one of the OGs, but what they just launched recently, which they got bought out a while ago, and I started to get a little like, I'm going to stay with them. I'm not sure I like everywhere they're going. They have since, in the past couple of years, finally listened to us OGs, and they're focusing more still on list building, on content management, but they just launched this new multi-platform campaign that is like crazy. And I'm going to walk you through it in a moment. The other thing that I use is Loom. Loom is these short, up to 5-minute screen share videos, kind of like what I'm doing right now. I use it a lot for clients. I may have used it for you guys before, but you can think about ways, maybe you use it with your team. Suzanne, if you had some team members asking a similar question about how to use your new booking platform, and it was going to take just a few minutes to show them, rather than having to wait till they come into work and sit down with them, you could do a quick screen sharing using Loom, record it. It gives you a link, and you could send it off to them, and they could watch it over and over again. And you could be like, next time they ask you that same question, you'd be like, I sent you that link. Go watch it. Yes, Suzanne, you raised a hand.
So Loom's just another app. Is it free, or you pay for it like you do Constant Contact and stuff?
No, Loom has it Loom has a free version, and I only use the free version. So that's a great question. I'm going to show you just briefly in a minute. You can do, because I use the free version, it's up to 5 minutes, and you can have in your vault like up to 25 videos, but you can download those videos. But if you want to just use the link, like share link, then you can have up to 25 videos, up to 5 minutes each. But it actually uses AI, and I'll show you momentarily. It uses AI to immediately create a title for it and also a synopsis. You don't have to do anything. It's really cool. But yes, there's a free version and a paid version. I only use the free version. Canva, if you notice my cute guy sitting on the beach with a cocktail, I actually created that in Canva using AI. I knew when I was creating my webinar before that I wanted a robot sitting on the beach with a cocktail. It just came in my head. And I, as a graphic designer and digital marketer, I use stock photography all the time. I could have created this, but this would have taken me a significant amount of time to scroll through and find a robot, find them in the position I wanted, isolate it, find a background I liked, find a cocktail I liked, put them all together, boom. I just put this little thing in there and it gave me 4 different options, and I really liked that one. It took me seconds. As a graphic designer who creates original graphics, I do have some concerns sometimes about using AI, but I'm more and more getting convinced, and even in the professional tools that I use, Photoshop and Illustrator, the uses that we're finding in there for creation are really good. So, I mean, it's not going anywhere. So you can either embrace it or you can fight it. But if you fight it, you're going to be left behind. So just to go through contact fairly quickly, because I don't want to keep you guys over too much. But this is that multi platform. And I know that both Suzanne and Beth, you have this, so you can play around with this a little bit. Christine, I can get you into a free trial if you want to go back to it. But when you start the multi-platform marketing, it uses AI and it walks you through it. So the first thing is it's going to ask you, what is the goal of your campaign? And I really wanted to point this out to you all too, because I told you I want you to have a SMART goal. So this kind of even goes along the idea, this whole thing that I'm going to show you. You might want to think of this in terms of your SMART goal. So it's asking you first, what is the ultimate goal? Do you want to keep people informed? You're just kind of nurturing them. That's that nurture series. Do you want to attract new customers? That's, do you want to build more brand awareness? Do you want to increase engagement, promote a product? You might have a new product that you're launching, maybe promote a service. Suzanne, in your case, maybe promote that you can now, we're coming into season. Now you can book your dives online. Maybe you have an event coming up, or if you were a nonprofit, Joni, when she watches this preview, she might want to, because I think she's watching this and doing the summer camp in terms of the work she does with the garden. So maybe collecting donations. So it starts you and you pick one of these things that it's going to focus on. Then it allows you to describe your business. So you can drop in up to 2,000 characters. This you might want to use ChatGPT for. Once you have sort of trained it to start as your assistant, you've done some assistant training. Now you can say, describe your business. You can put it in here up to 2,000 characters. You don't have to use all 2,000, but the more specific you are about your business, defining your business, defining your who your ideal client avatar is, the better that it's going to come up with a campaign. Then you add that in, you click next. Is it for everyone, or are you just throwing out a net, or is this for a specific audience? In my case, I typed in, I wanted to target travelers who are interested in coming to St. Croix or have already been to St. Croix or live here. Campaign builder, now it's going to ask you, there's 4 different things it can build in for you. I usually keep it to email and social posts. There is an SMS text feature. It does not, from what I understand, work with 340 numbers, but that might be changing. It is an upcharge. I haven't really used it much because we're on St. Croix. So you could just unclick that. If you have an event that's coming up, you can leave that clicked. If, I was promoting my webinar, I would keep that clicked. But most of the stuff that I'm doing, I'm going to keep email and social posts. Then you can choose the tone of voice that you want, and it will give you some, as you click through these different options, it will give you just some ideas. So you can choose the tone of voice that most fits what you want to do. Then you hit continue. And then it gives you, okay, here's everything that we're going to do for this campaign. And you can tweak it if you want to go back in and tweak it. But this is how we're going to build the campaign. And then you click on build campaign, and it creates a series of drafts for you based on your time frame. It'll be shorter, a lot more or less. It will create a series of posts and emails that are geared towards that goal, that go from awareness to nurturing to, it'll give you calls to action, and then you can go in and you can tweak them. And if you've set up your brand kit ahead of time, it will actually pull in images from your brand kit, your colors, everything, so that you just have to go in and tweak the information. It is a game changer. I've used it a few times now, and I can't tell you how excited I am about it. The other AI thing that I use that's got a free version, if you're not using it, is Grammarly. I find this really good. Sometimes it can be a little tweaky. You've got to move the little Grammarly thing around. But this will help you not only with spelling, but it will help you the free version even, which is all I use. I use Google Chrome and I have the app right up there. So when I'm typing into ChatGPT or I'm typing a social media post or anywhere I'm typing online, it will actually tell me if I have a run-on sentence. It just kind of helps me with my grammar if I have a comma in the wrong place or I don't have a comma or a semicolon. So it's a nice little proofreading thing that I use all the time. This I'm just showing you here how I actually have it so that I've added it into Google Chrome. So it's like running in the background on things. I do sometimes every now and then have to move it out of the way or turn it off if it's kind of interfering with something. But overall, I find this to be a hugely useful tool, Grammarly, and it uses AI for all those things. Loom, I mentioned, I use the starter for up to 25 videos for up to 5 minutes. And basically the way I use this a lot with clients because, you know, like I said, we could go back and forth about what time to meet, and then we both hop on Zoom and then we have to log in and we get there and whatever. Or I can just do, if it's something easy for me to show you, I can send you a quick little walkthrough and I can send you the link to it. And then if we need to dive in a little deeper and you have more questions, we can go through there, but you can watch it over and over again. And sometimes it's just super helpful to do that. The other thing that you could do is if you have a professional account, you could use Zoom. I will start a Zoom meeting. I have a Zoom Pro account. I will actually do screen sharing and I will talk using Zoom, and Canva also has a screen sharing option. Yeah, Suzanne, question.
On the Loom thing, sorry
Yeah.
guys,
No,
but
that's good.
on the Loom thing, so that free, that's up to 25 total ever, what is that?
It's 25 in your vault. So if you have 20 in there,
Oh, so you can delete and still use it
so
later.
you can
Okay.
have 25
Okay.
sitting in there at a time.
Okay.
I personally haven't found that I need to keep them in there forever, but if you wanted to do some like quick 5-minute tutorials on how to use your system and just have them kept
I'm
in there.
thinking for training new employees, it'd be very good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you can also play around with Canva. Canva has a video screen share thing that you can do. So if you need something that's a little longer, I can show you how to use that as well.
Okay.
So they have similar, but I just find this great. And what I love about it is here, I was just testing it out because I wanted to make sure the free version was still using AI because there was something weird in it in there. So I just did like a quick little sample and recording, and it walked me through this. And literally, I did like a 2-minute, you can see it was 2 minutes there, and it automatically created the link, and it created like a quick little synopsis of what down here you can see the summary. It did all that. I didn't have to do anything. I can go in there and edit it if I want, but I love that I've noticed since it started using this AI feature, I don't even have to do that. Like I might tweak a word or something, but not much. So this can be really helpful if you're using any online systems, any online booking systems, or if there's anything you need your clients or customers or your team to know how to do just real quick, like log in here and do this. I honestly thought after the fact I should have done that for the orientation page, just showing people where to log in. So it's really useful for that. So let's wrap it up. And what I want to reiterate, so we have a little bit of homework for this week, so you can get your badge at the end of the week. If you haven't yet set your SMART goal, I want you to make sure you're thinking about it now that we've gone through this. That SMART stands for exactly what you're going to do, so that it's specific. Is it measurable? So can we use KPIs, key performance indicators? Can we use likes? Can we use number of watches on Reels? Can we use number of hits on your website? How are we going to measure it? It needs to be something we can measure, you can measure. Is it attainable or achievable? Can it actually be done? Rome wasn't built in a day, so we can't say we're going to build Rome in one day. That's not achievable. Is it relevant? It should be relevant to what you want to get done, especially. It doesn't have to be over 3 weeks. This could be maybe you want to increase your brand awareness for your new ability to book diving online by the time we get to October in season. Maybe that's your SMART goal. So it's got a deadline on it. It's time bound. We want to be able to track the progress as we go. But the reason why you want it to be time bound is psychologically, deadlines help us finish things. I'm a bit ADD sometimes. And if I don't have a deadline to tackle, it can kind of just linger out there. So by having this SMART goal in mind, I don't mean you have to have it done at the end of 3 weeks. I just want you to be working on it over the course of 3 weeks and applying the things that you're learning to that goal, because that's going to get you so much further ahead. So think about something. It might be you have a product that you're launching for Black Friday. So you have a deadline that far out. That is fine. Whatever it is, I want it to have a timestamp date on it though, and be towards your goals. So some examples here would be increasing your website traffic by 20% in 3 months. That's specific, measurable, relevant, time bound. Or gain 500 new social media followers in 2 months. That's probably not attainable these days. We might want to do 100 so that you don't get frustrated. But it's not impossible if you have a really big account. But even where I have 5,000 followers on my St. Croix, I would probably say maybe 200 in 2 months. And I would really need to be working on it because it is challenging for 2 reasons. The algorithms have made things more challenging, but also it's summer and there's not always as much engagement as there is when we get into fall and winter. So I don't want you, again, I don't want you looking at those vanity metrics. And that's a little bit of a vanity metric. Followers, maybe not as much as likes. I want you to ignore likes going forward if you're working on social media goals. I want you to be focusing on engagement, watch time, engagement, comments, shares. Shares are really big. If you go on to my St. Croix Instagram account and look at the most recent tour that I did of Cruise and Rum, I think I'm up to like 56 shares. That is gold. That's what I want. I want people to save it. I think last I looked had like 10 saves. So people might be saving it to their list when they're planning their vacation, but those shares are gold. That tells the algorithm this is really juicy content, and it will keep going over the course of a couple weeks. The other real quick thing I want to mention, because I forgot to, about carousels, if you are using carousels, focusing on your reels and carousels, what's really cool about carousels is it will push it out once using that first reel slide, and then it will push it out 24 hours later using the second slide. So if you're using them strategically, and we'll talk about this next week a little bit more, if you're having a good call to action on your first slide, make sure you have it on your first 2 slides, because you might have noticed this. Oh, that showed me the second slide. So you don't want it to be something when it pushes out the second slide where people can re-engage. You don't want them to be in the middle of your story and not know what the heck this is about. So you want to keep that in mind. You can have up to 10 slides, 10 images, and those first 2, the first one's going to go out first, and then they're going to re-engage it showing the second one. So now we are into your homework for the week. I want you to set up an AI assistant to work for you. You can choose ChatGPT, you can choose Claude.ai, or you can choose both. And I highly recommend maybe choosing both and doing the exact same prompts so that you can pair them. But I want you to get them set up. So first, you're going to need to define that SMART goal. So what is it that you're working towards? Because I want you to have that in the back of your mind. But then I want you to go in and use some prompt engineering. So you're going to set up your new engineer, and I'm going to drop into the module, and I'll drop it into the Facebook group as well. I'll reiterate this for you so you don't have to worry about writing everything down. But I want you to start off by telling it, as your assistant, acting as a digital marketing strategist. So you are telling that AI what its role is with working with you. It's going to work as your digital marketing strategist. And then I'm going to assign you a series of tasks to help me promote my business and business goals. My business is, and then I want you to just give it your synopsis of your business, an overview of your business. It might be 3 sentences. It might be several paragraphs. I also want you to include in it who your ideal customer is. And you don't have to worry about having that perfectly worded, because this is AI, and especially with ChatGPT, it's going to kind of understand conversationally what you're telling it. I did drop into your materials section in week 1 too, my ICA worksheet. So if you haven't worked with me doing an ICA, that's got some good information, sort of Mad Lib style, that can kind of get you into that mode. But this is that person you would work with every single day, all day, that lights you up. How old are they? You know, I told you, you guys are all Gen X women. I like Gen X women who are small business owners. My ICA is Gen X women who are small business owners or entrepreneurs who are very good at what they do, but are interested in becoming more versed in using online tools. And here you all are. So you want to feed that in to your ICA. And then after you feed that in, you're going to say, now ask me, you're going to say this to ChatGPT or Claude, ask me 10 to 15 questions to help define my business to you so that you can help me with my goals. It's going to come up with 10 to 15 questions and you're going to answer them. That is going to help you redefine. And what I do is I just copy those questions, then I drop them back in and I put my answers in. Or if like 1 to 10, I'll say 1 to do. 2, but you want to do them all at one time. So you might like type them somewhere else and then copy paste them in, because it will then come back to you with, okay, tell me this. It might give you some more. What it's doing is it's getting to know you and your business. So allow it, have that back and forth. And then you can start going into your SMART goal and say, this is my goal. What recommendations can you give me to start to achieve my goal? And it's going to start to give you some recommendations based on that goal. And then you can start going back and forth with it. If it's totally off, you can say, no, that's not really what I'm going for, because maybe you didn't write it out clearly. Because it's like a baby, it garbage in, garbage out, whatever you tell it. This is the way I want you to start working with it. So it starts to give you some ideas so that next week, when we get into content, you have some defined things that you're going to work on as far as content. Does that make sense to everybody? I see in the chat, I've got a question. Yes, go ahead, Suzanne. You want to tell everyone about a challenge you had with AI?
Well, it's a kind of a serious challenge. I was at my aunt's house in Tulsa, and AI somehow can get every one of our voices. And she had a phone call from her granddaughter that doesn't drive yet, stating that she was in a wreck. She was driving her friend home and she needed $10,000 to stay out of jail. It was her granddaughter's exact voice. And Aunt Judy said, but you can't drive yet. She goes, I know, but my friend had a medical problem, so I had to drive. And so here, I'm going to let you talk to her father. He's an attorney. So they had her go to the bank, and Aunt Judy went to the bank. And as she was at the bank, she started thinking, and she told the banker, and the banker called her son and everything, but it was her granddaughter's complete voice. And then they knew where she lived, and they wanted her to go home after she went to the bank instead of meeting them, and they were going to come get the money.
Yeah. So what I will say about that is that, yes, there are some bad actors out there, and these are things that we do have to be very careful of.
So now our voices, I'm like, holy crap. So I've told my nephews and everyone, if anybody ever gets a phone call, to call any one of us to make sure before they do anything. But just FYI, because that was a big one.
It is. I've heard of this happening. I haven't heard anybody it actually happened to before, but I've heard of this happening. It is one of the things that I was saying before, though, that like, if you're not going to get on AI, somebody else is. This goes along the same line of, you know, the Facebook Messenger things that people were getting, you know, and you know, catfishing people. I'm falling in love with you and I need $10,000 to get this visa so I can come visit you, kind of thing. Yeah, you have to take everything nowadays with a grain of salt, including now that we're getting into this political climate. Like, is that video of this candidate falling down a real video or not? You know, yeah, it is scary. It is the scary side of AI. It is why I lean into Claude a little bit more. But in all likelihood, whoever was using was not using ChatGPT or Claude. That, so the more we have our voices out there, it is definitely something that like I would recommend in those cases, being aware of what kind of scams are happening in the world. And in any time there was something like that happening, hanging up and having, going to a landline or having somebody else call them on their actual phone number to make sure that that was real to begin with. We do have to be skeptical nowadays, unless you can, and the scary thing is, who knows if next they might not be able to FaceTime us. And, there are scary sides to it for sure. I was watching Bill Maher, I think it was his last show or second to last show, and he had this guy on who's known as the godfather of AI, who predicted and helped develop the first AI bots way back in like the 80s. My father actually worked for Digital Equipment Corporation before they closed. And I think IBM or somebody bought them out, but when my father was even working there in the 80s, they were working on voice to text at the time. And they were working on AI things back in the late 80s. So this guy had predicted where we are now, but we're 10 years ahead of what he predicted. And in the course of the conversation, there was some scary stuff that he brought up that he didn't think was going to happen. But he was like, worst case scenario, all the AIs will realize that all carbon-based life forms are irrelevant and they'll just annihilate us all. And I was like, So, but I think what's important, with all of that being said, is that this is why it's so important to become familiar with it, to know that you've been using it for Amazon and Netflix. You're already using it on a daily basis. So I think it's why it's important to learn how to use it to your benefit. And also in learning how to use it to your benefit, maybe you can recognize some of these scams a little bit better before they become real situations. Because that is so scary. I mean, if I thought my nephew, he's only 4, but if I thought he was calling me for something like that, I would be really concerned.
Yeah, here it's not going to happen as much as in the States, but still the fact that it was their own voice is what I was like, everybody needs to know that, because anybody could get a phone call.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's why you hang up and then call their real phone and look at, because you can also, I know you can spoof emails, so you probably could spoof a phone number.
Yep.
So find another way to get in touch with them quickly and say, did I just have this conversation with you? When it comes to large amounts of money or weird things like that, we've got to double verify whenever possible. It's a really smart thing to do. And thank you for bringing that up, because like I said, I'd heard about some of these things, but I had not actually heard of somebody it really happened to. So it's scary, especially scary for our older family members who tend to be a little more gullible or just not tech savvy. How would they know this? It's creepy. Anybody with any other questions about this week's homework assignment? I'll go back to that just in case you want to look at it. We'll go back. Go ahead, Suzanne. Just jump in, guys. It's okay.
Sorry, I have another question.
It's a small enough group. Just jump in.
For this, do I set up a different email?
No, you don't have to set up a different email. If you have not,
because I've got a lot of different things going in ChatGPT.
Okay. So if you have a lot of different, are they all to do with your business though?
Yes.
Okay, then that's fine. You can stay in the same ChatGPT. For me, the reason why I've set them up differently is like I have one client who does payroll. So I just set up a new one for hers because I didn't want it to get confused with my St. Croix stuff.
Okay.
On my St. Croix, I've asked questions when we were working on your website, but those are still dive and excursion related. So I'm fine with them being in there. But so I would say if you're working on a completely different thing on your business, then yes, you would want to set up a new account. But no, you don't. You're actually maybe slightly ahead, or your chatbot is going to really get into what you're doing because you've already been asking it some questions related to your business. So you can stay in the same one. And then I would also kind of test it out over on Claude just to see how that works for you too, and just compare the two. I've done a lot of article writing using the two of them and like cherry picking out a paragraph here, a paragraph there. you know, from Claude and then putting it in and then using my own voice. But I've used it to create outlines for me, because sometimes you're just like, sometimes you want to write a blog post or an article, or you want to do a series of social media posts, but you kind of know what you want, but your brain is just not firing on all cylinders. Happens quite often for me. So I use my AI assistant literally in the same way I would use if I had a real assistant sitting next to me, and I'd be like, hey, Charlie, what do you think about doing this? Let's do this. But like I said, I don't have to be as nice to Charlie, because Charlie's not going to ask for vacation time or be like, oh, you were being cranky when you asked me that. So you really do want to use it like a real assistant, but still make sure that you are in it. You still want your unique voice. You still want to be the one that's driving it and guiding it. Don't just randomly just copy paste out of it, because that people will start to realize it and notice that it's not you. Anybody else with any other questions before we sign off for the week? No? I do want to encourage you, if you have not yet, I accidentally created 2 Facebook groups, but I think most of you have gotten into the right Facebook group. But if you refer to the email that went out on Friday, that link to join the Facebook group is wrong. I sent individual invitations to everybody. So make sure you get into our private Facebook group. I have a few prompts in there. The one that I want you to most pay attention to is, when you're ready, I want you to drop your SMART goal into that post. You'll see that same graphic I used. This will keep you accountable. So I want you to drop that in there. Again, you do not have to be stressed out that this is a goal you have to have completed in 3 weeks. No. It's just the goal you're going to work towards over and apply the lessons that you learn over the next 3 weeks to that goal. It's just going to be a learning tool for you, but something that hopefully then we can all cheer you on with when you're implementing that goal. We're all going to be there and be your cheerleaders, because we're working together, we're networking, and we want each other to succeed. All right, ladies, thank you so much for your time. I also do have links if you want to set aside that hour on Wednesday for co-working. We're going to pop in on the link. It doesn't get recorded at all, but basically I'll pop in if anybody has any questions about this week's assignment. Briefly, we'll talk about them, and then we will all go on mute and we'll work for the hour. At the end of the hour, I'll come back on. What it does is it causes you to put time on your calendar to work on this assignment. I want you to, Amy Porterfield calls it tiger time. So if you're able to do that on Wednesday, but it's completely, I know people have things to do. It's completely optional. If you can't do that on Wednesday and do it as a group with us, set aside at least an hour sometime during the week to work on this, where you're working on this and nothing else. And then on Friday, if you can make it on Friday at noon, we're going to do office hours, kind of like we're doing right now. But if there's any questions you have, we'll go through your SMART goals. If you want to pull it up, if you want me to tweak what your goal is and maybe give you some feedback on it, get group feedback. Does this make sense? You know, this is a time for us all to sort of work together on Friday as a cohort to help each other and cheer each other on. So thank you, ladies, and welcome to camp. I'm so excited for the next 3 weeks. And also, if you have questions during the week, don't hesitate to email me or drop them in the group if you want some group feedback, because that's what our Facebook group is for us to work together. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. Hopefully see you on Wednesday.